Now, let me give you a little word about the lanyards. Some people have asked about it because you weren't here last week, but I've heard different reports, that some people have seen a lot of these at school, and that's awesome. Some people have seen other people that they know have them that weren't wearing them. And really, that doesn't really offend me, because these are kind of going along with our series, if you don't have any idea what they are. We're talking about the series about sharing our life with Christ and knowing Him better. And one of the ways that we want to do that is by carrying Him around with us. Realizing that if our life is given to Christ, then He is in us and with us all the time. And by doing that, by carrying Him around, it's just kind of a constant little reminder that Jesus is with me right at this second. And I want to know Him in these different ways that we list on the back, and you fill in the blanks. That's what these are for. And let me tell you, this is a personal thing between you and God. And honestly, the purpose of it is not so that people will ask you about Jesus. It's not really an evangelism tool. It's not anything like that. The purpose is really for you to understand that at all times, Jesus is with you, and He relates to you, and He loves you in these certain ways that we're listing on the back. And I believe by doing this and by trying to stick with it and having that constant reminder, your relationship with Him will grow. And that's what we want. And it's a personal thing, and I honestly don't care if you wear it outside your shirt, if you tuck it in your shirt, if you put it in your back pocket or have it in your backpack all day at school. I don't care if it's out where people can see it, as long as you know that you have it. It's a constant reminder for you. This is for you. This is not for everybody else. And let me tell you, if you've kind of had the thought and the idea that, this is just a stupid church thing, I know I'm a Christian, I don't have to prove that to anybody else by wearing anything, that's probably Satan trying to stop you from doing something that's going to help you in your relationship with God. Don't be a fool. Don't fall for it. You have an opportunity. You're responsible. It's your relationship with Him. And I encourage you to wear these. If you don't have one, we'll give you one in your breakout groups tonight. But they're good to have. It's been kind of neat for me to just have that constant little reminder that Jesus is with me all the time, that this is for real, that my relationship with Him doesn't cut off and start back up on Sundays or anything like that. It's for real. So wear them if you got them. If you lost them, we got another one. Try not to lose them again, all right? Now, excuse me. Before we get to tonight's ideas, let's do a little bit of review about last week. And this is for the candy. What is the verse that we talked about that is often misused? Wit. Which is... Alright. Good. Very good. Now, how is it misused? Leah.
They just read, I can do anything, and they don't get baptized.
Right, exactly. Very good. They read the I can do all things part without really tacking on the through Christ part. And I think the through Christ part is the most important part. If Christ lives in us and our lives are shared with Him, then what do we have to do? What is the point? Bailey. Yeah, good. We have to know Him better, right? We have to improve that relationship. It's just like, picture yourself with a Siamese twin. Your life has to be shared with that person. They're with you all the time. And if you treated that Siamese twin like a stranger, or acted like you didn't care what they thought or felt, they'd probably not help you out, right? But Jesus isn't like that. He wants us to know Him, to get to know Him better. Last week we talked about one way to actually know Him more. What was the word from last week? Joe. Rejected, right? Why is it important to know that Jesus was rejected? Drake.
Just like us, he's not a superhero.
Right, He's not a superhero. He's just like us. He feels... Sorry, I'm so sorry. He feels much the same way that we feel. In His life, He faced tons of rejection, so that we know that we have a God, we have a person that we relate to that actually relates to us. That's one of the most amazing things about what God has done, is that He gave Jesus to us in a way that He knows what we live through. We're going to talk about that some more tonight. Why did Jesus promise that we would be rejected by following Him? These are hard questions tonight.
Because we would.
Why, though? Because he just said we would, because Jesus isn't always popular, right? Following God's not always the easiest thing to do. All right, now, last question, the hard one. How does knowing He was rejected help you to deal with being rejected yourself? Jackson.
He went through the same things we were going through.
And what else?
And He's in us, so He's going to help us.
Right. He is with you so that even though I'll give you one too, Jackson. You were good too.
Switch with me.
He said because He is with us all the time, we never have to feel completely rejected. You going to do the quick switch? Okay. There you go. Catch it in your hair. Gross.
After he already took one out of it.
Yeah. All right. So this is a big point that Garrett just made. This is important. The reason that we never have to feel rejected by the world is because no matter how much rejection we face, whether it's your friends turning on you, or people don't understand you, or you're just uncomfortable at school, or your family doesn't even understand what you're going through and just gets mad whenever you try to talk about it, regardless of all that, Jesus is always with you. Remember, your life is shared with Him, and that's important because if He's there, you are never completely rejected. You are never alone because He lived a life of rejection so that you wouldn't have to. And that's pretty important stuff. Now this is big stuff here. Once we put our faith in Christ, He lives in us, our lives are shared, and we are no longer alone. And if we're not going to be alone, then we need to know each other a little bit. That's what this whole thing is about knowing Him more. So tonight we're going to look at another aspect of Jesus' life that we can kind of relate to Him better in. It goes like this, and you can obviously think and fill out that the second blank is tempted. Jesus was tempted, and I will be, is what the second blank is. Who's ever been tempted before? Absolutely. There's tempting stuff out there. And for me, the temptation is usually not something like smoking crack. That's just not a temptation for me. My temptations usually go a little more something like in this video right here.
What's happening, baby?
A lot is happening, Foxy. Dr. Evil has escaped. The good news is that one of our agents has managed to infiltrate Dr. Evil's organization.
Excellent, Basil. We've been trying for years to get a mole inside Dr. Evil's lair. We now have that mole.
Yes. Ah, and here he is.
So you're the... Most excellent agent we've ever seen.
Yes, most excellent agent we've ever seen. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I won't be able to get an exact location, but I learned that Dr. Evil has moved to a new lair outside of Tokyo, Japan. By the way, I realize that I have a large mole on my face.
Where? What? Where's that mole? I didn't see one.
I also realize the irony that I am myself a mole.
No one would make that connection.
Anyway, well done, old chap. Jolly good work.
Yes, nice to mole you. Meet you. Nice to meet you, mole. Don't say mole.
Stop.
I said mole.
Stop.
Bye, mole.
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 Shut up!
Mole, 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 mole.
All right. Sometimes we face a temptation. Sometimes in our lives we come across a temptation. And like I said, for me the temptation is usually not something like snorting crack, but usually more often something like somebody has something about them that I want to say something about, and it would be inappropriate. And sometimes when those temptations come across on us, we have to physically try and stop ourselves. I love that he's sitting there just going like this. You know, just holding it back. Because that temptation, that thing, is right in his face and it gets in his brain and he wants to say something about it, but he's trying not to, and it's tough, and he obviously gives in. He can't help himself. But it's a good example of temptation for me because it relates to me in a certain way.